Hello, everyone.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
How are we doing?
Tired.
Good, thank you.
All right, I'll go around and introduce everyone then. So we are joined this week by Richard Himsworth, CEO of Salesfire.
Hi.
Look at that face.
No fuming about the Sunday name this time.
I know, sorry.
I've just given up on it.
We are joined again this week by James Lees, Marketing Director of Maybo. We missed you last week, mate.
I've listened to one of the podcasts. You definitely didn't. It was better than what I'm on.
Are you excited to be back?
I'm very excited. In your nice leafy office as well, mate. It's over the moon.
Great stuff. And Tim Mawson, Head of Partnerships at Salesfire.
Hi, Josh. You all right?
How are you doing?
Good, mate. Thank you very much. Glad to be back in the office part-time.
Good. Yeah, we are recording from the office today, all socially distanced. We're starting to make a move. When are we starting to make a move back in, Rich? The next couple of weeks?
I think from the 15th, I think we'll start to up things.
We're taking Sports Direct's lead on things. If they can open on the 15th of June, we can open the office.
I don't know if that's sensible or not.
Good enough for Ashley. It's good enough for me.
So you're going back in August? Is that concrete or?
No, it's not concrete, mate. But that's that as it stands as we speak today. That's how it is. Will things change? Possibly. It depends on what happens in regards to rate of infections and stuff like that, and whether we can go things what was close to as normal as it was previously. Because the reason people want to go back to the office isn't because I feel it'd be better in my job. Because okay, there's elements of that in regard to collaboration that can be done better face to face. So, for example, when you need design resources and stuff, that's always easier done first face to face. But
yeah,
people want to go back for the more social aspect of it, but the reality is we'll have to close down all social areas in the office, all breakout areas. People can't play ping pong, pool, PlayStation, Xbox, all that carry on. So the break times and the conversations of seeing people is what people are missing more than anything. And that won't be as it was before. So I think we'll be bringing back from what probably with the wrong reasons. And to be honest,
are you getting anyone? Are you bringing any professional sort of cleaning in after you get in, or have you not thought that far?
We've spoke to the cleaning company already in regards to upping what's happened there and changing the way that's going to be done. So yeah, we've had that conversation already. So that's where we are at the moment. We have to have key holders that are going in all the time as well. So the more senior members of the team, but it's the senior members of the team where they're going to be struggling, more likely to struggle with childcare. So for example, there's not a chance whilst my son can't go to full-time school and nursery that I could come back to the office full-time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't envisage that even happening until September. So there's loads of ifs and buts. But yeah, if we're looking at August as the very earliest at this point.
Yeah, it's something we're discussing at the minute, whether we're going to have to get people in to sort of regularly fumigate the place and do a full deep clean, or
that fogging carry on.
Yeah, but I suppose it depends on government guidelines, doesn't it? At the minute, we're sort of flying a bit blind with it. I feel like everyone's starting to creep. Yeah, I feel like we're starting to creep back in. Everyone's starting to creep back in, whereas nobody's really saying yes or no on it. It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah.
You got anything to add there, Rich? I know you're quite vocal on it normally. No.
My line on it isn't particularly everyone else's line on it, I don't think. So the whole people have mentioned the whole fumigate in the office and getting the Ghostbusters around to do it. But it's something that needs to be done regularly.
Yeah.
Or kind of, I think everyone saw that as kind of a one-off. Do that around the office, and then you can come back in. And realistically, we've been out the office for 8-9 weeks, so there should be nothing. There should be no signs of COVID within the office. It shouldn't be possible. So
if we were going to do it,
it's just putting steps in place going forward. It's like we said there. It's like having something regular, and I guess that's what we'll need to stay on top of as we repopulate the office, I guess.
It's a tough one with there being no guidelines and no sort of structure for it. Everyone's going to have to come up with their own game plan for it.
Why do you think there are no guidelines, or few guidelines? Do you think it's just because no one wants to, the government, for example, doesn't want to look like they're in they're committing to anything in particular that could go against them, that could go wrong? Everything's very, do you know what I mean? There should be some pretty clear guidelines in exactly what you do. But even going back in the office, I think we've looked at the guidelines on it, and there's nothing. I mean, how many people be employed in an office around the country? And there's no real guidelines as to right now we'd expect offices to be opening up, and probably it's offices that are generating the money around the vast majority of the wealth of the country, I dare say.
It's because at the minute the official guideline is work from home if you can, but as people are finding it harder to do that and harder to keep it normal, people are starting to creep back in. But then with them just saying that, they've left it open to interpretation, haven't they? Which is not what you really want from a government.
I've said it before. So
to get political.
When we came out of the 2008 crisis, there was apparently all these zombie companies, as they were coined. So there were companies that were relying on the government, and really they should have gone out of business off the back of 2008. But kind of government loans, things like that, kind of helped them along and helped them kind of basically stay in business where they shouldn't really. And I think the zombie thing comes from the fact that they're not really looking to grow; they're just looking to, they're pretty much stagnated, and the country can't really deal with that as a whole. Like they need growth. The UK needs growth. So what's happening off the back of this? They don't want that stagnation, but it's kind of happening again. You've got companies there that can get by that probably could have and should have gone out of business, as harsh as it sounds, that are now allowing these furloughs. So you've got companies that are probably in cash profit now every month because they've got furloughed. They've got the furloughed staff.
Yeah.
And by not really announcing anything to do with offices and them going back in, I feel like they're making mistakes on it, because you're walking into that type of culture again. So whereas with us, and I maintain this throughout, can we operate from home? Can Salesfire operate from home? Can a lot of the other the sister companies that we've got, can they operate from home? Yes, they can maintain. Will they go out of business from home? Absolutely not. Can they thrive and excel and grow to their full potential from home? Absolutely not. They can't. There's not enough collaboration going on. There's not enough new ideas happening. If you've got one set way of doing things, you can probably get away with it. But we know businesses need to evolve, and it's that side of things that's completely missing off the back of this.
I think in regards to furlough situations, a lot of people who have staff furloughed that don't need them furloughed and thought, I can take the hit here. You know what? We just won't do anything for the meantime. That means businesses are now grown, but also there's a lot of money getting taken out of that furlough scheme that probably didn't have to be done.
Yeah.
For example, there's a couple of people I know run pubs, and they said the pub's not been so profitable for a long, long time. The fact that they're not trading the furlough and stuff, it's crazy. And they've got other government grants and things like that. So we've had our best months for a long time. It's crazy to think that, innit? Yeah, it's crazy to think that. But yeah, because anything you get put out there, it just kind of get manipulated beyond what is actually a necessity. So yeah, I think obviously the economy does need to get moving. I'm grateful for the fact that I work in e-commerce, and I know work with you guys very early doors in this. I know we've done a couple of webinars, and a lot of the conversation around what this podcast was early doors in regard to confidence, and particularly like the stats that you guys are putting out from your dashboard for money going through e-commerce wise through your platform. It's there was like a 2 to 3, maybe 4 week panic from e-commerce retailers, but that industry is really thriving now, and it's going to come out of it the other end really well as well. Again, it's because people have been furloughed, they're still sat there spending money.
Yeah.
On unnecessary purchases, and it's just going to be interesting how that comes out the other end. I was working in e-commerce when the last recession hit around about 2000. Was it 2009, 10?
2008, I think.
2008. So yeah, it's around that time again. It's e-commerce and digital is flying. So hopefully it's the same again.
Yeah. Well, how are you dealing with? Have you got an idea how you're going to be dealing with clients moving forward? I know we touched on this with Tim a little bit, and he said that he reckons that Tim Johnson, last week, he said that he thought they was going to do a lot more stuff over video, and they're not going to need to get their guys out and about as much and get people in. Is that something you guys have been thinking about?
Well, obviously, video chats have been very prominent with clients now. We never really used to do them, if I'm being honest. So again, it would be face-to-face or over a telephone call. And that's been happening a lot recently. And it's not my department of the business, so I couldn't really say, no, we're definitely going to do it. We're definitely going to do that. But could it potentially reduce the amount of face-to-face meetings you have? Maybe. But the reason we have these nice offices, one of the reasons is to bring your clients somewhere where they feel they can invest in this business with confidence.
Yeah.
Knowing that you see a lot of happy people there, you can see they've invested in the well-being of the staff. They're not just basically like battery hens sat on the desk just grafting all day. I mean, it's a different place to come work. You invest in that, so you won't get that from doing it that way. But again, if you can do more video meetings, and let's be honest, like let's say we've got a client down, we're in Teesside, you're going to travel 3 hours to Birmingham, yeah? So you got 6 hours driving minimum a day there, and then for a 1 hour, maybe 2 hour meeting, there's a whole day gone for one meeting. If you look at the efficiency of things like that, it doesn't really work. The numbers don't add up. So if you could do more of them through video, and you can get let's say you've got your market manager and the managing director, and you've got their people working on their team, things like that, and you've got yourself, your support staff, and all that. Have a 1 hour, 2 hour video call. You could do 2 or 3 of them a day.
Yeah.
From our perspective, we've never gone to meetings, so we felt like we'd stumbled across, or we were taking advantage of quite a niche, really, whereby everyone else goes out on meetings, and you'll have an account manager and a salesperson going out on meetings to the other side of the country. We kind of saved the money and passed the savings down to our clients, which meant that we were cheaper than our opposition, which meant that we were winning more business. So it worked really well, the whole situation for us. Now people are starting to pick up on all the Zoom calls and things like that. We feel as though potentially that kind of the advantage that we've had that might be lost a little bit if people kind of, I dare say, play catch up with us and start looking at doing things remotely. But I've looked at it for years, and you look at the overheads of someone going out. Well, I've experienced it firsthand off the back of sales. I've gone when you're going out to someone else's working environment. Usually, I mean, you'll arrive. They've got the deliveries coming in, things like that. You get them to your own environment. You can pull in different members of staff, different specialists into the meeting. It's more, the whole thing's more cohesive. Like it works. It works better for like pulling them out of their kind of typical workspace, pulling them into your environment. We used to call them home games, for example, and away from home, we struggled. I actually went to a meeting once, and there were, it was a fashion retailer, and in the shop, we were in the meeting over like a central island, but they were actually still constructing the central island while I was doing the meeting. And there was actually a circular saw, like a buzzsaw, just they were running down, cutting the length of the table. It was unbelievable. Yeah, didn't win the job. And I think that was in somewhere like, I think we were in Leicester or somewhere. So it's trips down there, come all the way back. It's just, I don't think people realise or appreciate half the time that you're actually going out you've actually travelled 3-4 hours to see them. And sometimes it's like the MD's that you can't make it, he's held up, things like that. And you don't know what kind of environment you're coming into. So we found it's really effective just doing things over the phone. Yes, we are a solution where, we're a SaaS solution, so we can do everything. We're set up remotely to do it. But we'd never change it. We'd never change that way of working.
Just off the back of that, actually, I know we're obviously talking about getting people back in the office and getting clients back in the office and getting a bit of, at least looking at a bit of normalcy towards things. Me and you were talking about this, Tim, earlier about there's a big hole in people's games when it comes to sort of lead generation and things like that. When we're talking about not going to these expos and these conferences, didn't someone got in touch with you? Was it a couple of days ago?
Yeah, there's been a few of them really. There's like loads of them that you still see banded around LinkedIn, and we were all talking about this in like a group chat the other day, where people are, for example, IRX, where James, you were saying they've moved it to March next year or something to that effect, haven't you? And it's been kicked down the road that many times. It was meant to be September, but at this point, is it still valuable doing it? And then Josh had an inquiry from a bloke who was, what he described was he was going to run an event that was going to be like The Sims, basically. And you'd be networking online with like a Sims character and go to people's stands and talk to them like that. And it's kind of an interesting, weird little twist on it. But I think it comes at that sort of price where if you were charging $3,000 a stand for it to run something via the Sims, it almost isn't the same as having that physical experience of meeting someone.
An unproven concept as well. A completely unproven concept. At least the shows as they were, and the current guys is a proven concept. Okay, will they potentially having their day? And did they have to diversify? I think so. Myself and Rich longer than I have been doing these shows for a long time now, and you can see them they're getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and the value is getting less and less each year. But still, it's this whole kind of thing of like a Sims concept of walking around virtually. It's for one of it. It sounds like utter bollocks to me. It really does. Like you wouldn't catch me investing in that.
No, I don't think it'll go anywhere. It reminds me of there was a few companies came along probably about 8 to 10 years ago that were almost like virtual malls. So the idea was, it was like a spin on a marketplace. So you could actually go into the mall, kind of walk around all the different shops.
Oh, okay.
What shop you want to go in, that gets you into their e-commerce site. Then come out there, go on a lift, that type of thing. It just didn't make sense when you could just go to Google, open 3 or 4 tabs straight away. You know, Google's your ball at the end of the day, really.
So again, it was an article around consumer confidence, which we've already sort of gone over a little bit in this. And we were talking a lot about how, obviously, through the first couple of 4 weeks of COVID, something like 2-4 weeks, consumers were pretty much holding fire on the money. Things weren't being spent online as we didn't really understand the scenario. And what the Retail Gazette have likened it to is pretty much the 2008 recession, basically saying that people are, for want of a better way of putting it, stuffing money into the mattress and not putting it in the bank because they're lacking that sort of confidence in where things go from here. I don't know if this is something that obviously people who were involved in e-commerce 2008 might have a better idea on how this sort of thing looked then.
This has played out, I dare say, like as we expected and as we kind of predicted in the first couple of podcasts. Really, it was a case of getting hold of your essentials, everyone wrapping up warm, and like you say, Tim, stuffing money in the mattress, and then realize as furlough came about, people could see kind of a pattern as to how things were rolling out. Then came the boredom. Then came the more luxurious items, I guess. Hot tub retailers that literally can't supply enough hot tubs. You know, that type of thing.
Pre-orders now, aren't the hot tub retailers?
Yeah, like you know, high end bikes being sold online, things like that.
We've got to a point where
we pretty much said that from the beginning. That's the way it was going to pan out. Where it was a lot of what we were seeing through our network was a lot of orders, small volume orders. So we were more or less maintaining the same daily turnover through the network, but the orders were up, so the average order value was right down. It's people picking up odds and ends here and there, essentials and things, and then what we found was the orders continuing to grow really, but then really stepping up in terms of the average order value, where the bigger, more considered purchases were coming about.
We're getting to a weird situation now, where as things start to, the lockdown starts to ease and people are still furloughed. If the what we're seeing on the news is anything to believe, we're in a weird place where people have got all this time on their hands and they're going out and about and they're on the beach and they're at the shops on the front there. It's like one massive holiday at the minute.
The next thing that's going to happen, and we're on a roll with this so far, so we might as well continue predicting, is fashion. Fashion will
come back,
really, really drive upwards, because there's a lot of people now where, I mean, I dare say, in terms of activewear, I've just lived in. I've never done it before, really. I've lived in like t-shirt and tracksuit bottoms or whatever. I've been gardening in a pair of Converse that I normally wear for work. I think everyone's just kind of, I dare say, wearing the same t-shirt several days running. I think everyone's just kind of wrapped up warm in terms of not purchasing on things like that. And I think the likes of your Boohoo's have done well through this, and I guess your fast fashion's done well in terms of, I dare say, it's almost like essentials that people require.
More leisure wear.
I think as people going back in the office, people are kind of, there will be a real acceleration in the amount of orders going through it.
This does actually lead nicely onto another article. So you've done really well here, Richard. Way.
Almost like we know what we're doing.
So there was an article again by Internet Retailing, basically highlighting how the total UK online fashion orders are up 115%, but average order value remains down. So again, it highlights that point again where you're saying people may go out and they may buy.
Yeah, pants and socks are cheaper than shirts.
Yeah, you're not buying a like Gucci tracksuit or whatever, but you're going out and buying like, I don't know, 300 plain white t-shirts to do what you want on that front. Ta-da.
So is that our official prediction then? Fast fashion is going to see that. Are we talking?
I think all fashion, the likes of your high end, your branded fashion, your Hugo Boss retailers, they're going to really drive upwards in sales.
Primark recently came out and said they've made a point of saying there will be no discounts when they open again.
They don't need to. They really don't need to.
But it's crazy that they just came out.
Discount from now.
They've made a point of coming out and saying we will not be discounting anything.
People will be queuing around the block to get into Primark.
Yeah, 100%. Primark opens what, the 15th?
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, 15th of June. Can you imagine Middlesbrough Town Centre on the 15th of June?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There'll be bigger crowds than when we got promotion 2016.
It's a great success. To be fair,
do you think off the back of it, do you think Primark's learnt any lessons? Do you think Primark will kind of think, I wish we got into e-commerce, wish we got established, and then really set about approaching this more seriously? Or do you think they'll just say, right, we rode through that, we wrapped up warm, and now we're back up and running?
I think they'll have some kind of third party.
Could you do yours?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I think they'll have some form of third party consultancy going in there now, kind of approaching the subject. And like you said, you're absolutely bang on what you said in regards to Primark's that kind of business. In regards to where to set up everything that way, you can flick a couple of switches, get loaded on big commerce, whatever, and then say we are now an e-commerce business, because they're probably the biggest chain of fast fashion, like in regards to retail stores in the country. They can't just diversify like that. And you're right in what you said about that. And it's certainly okay. Primark being online, would it bridge the gap in the turnover? Of course, it would do. But I think they'll have a team of people now who will be looking seriously into e-commerce. I think they'll probably have some consultants reaching out to the big agencies, because let's be honest, if there's one retailer in the UK at the moment that isn't heavy e-commerce, that could really smash it quickly, it's Primark. But you'll get, your Boohoo's of the world are certainly going to be like wondering what's going to happen there, because if someone's going to take them on in fast fashion, this could be Primark, isn't it?
Do you think they could almost partner with the likes of Amazon and almost become? Obviously, you got your supermarkets. I mean, you've got Asda and George as the fashion wing. You've got, could they could almost end up kind of associating themselves with the likes of Amazon in the UK?
Well, if they've been looking at the warehousing and stuff like,
we should be consultants.
If they're listening,
kind of. I just not get paid well for it.
They've been thinking about the warehousing, and they've been changing that up a lot, haven't they? So maybe they've been taking that into account when they've been hiring that, or when they've been looking about for it. I don't know. It's definitely 100% they've looked at it.
No, there must be.
Again,
I have a feeling they've already looked at the viability of it and rejected it previously. They must have by now.
Yeah, you made a point before, didn't you, Josh, where you were saying that or it might be Matty on the week he was on, when he was saying that basically the reason they can do things so cheaply is because they don't have to run warehouse, pick and packing, they don't have to do all this other stuff that goes on behind the scenes of an e-com retailer.
Well, people forget that it is expensive. It's you're not just paying for footfall. You're not just paying for some TV adverts and footfall. Not to take away from that. Not to make out like that's easy, but you've got social, you've got paid, you've got email marketing, you've got TV adverts if you're of that size. You've got your logistics to look after. It's a huge operation to get to take one of those companies online.
So there's just one sort of thing that I suppose sort of leads on from this, and it's talking about, we hear a lot on the news how younger people's buying patterns are changing, and people maybe who are of slightly younger generation than myself may look towards buying clothing brands like the Patagonias of the world, where they're designed to be more sustainable and they're done in a more ethical fashion. And we're seeing people move towards that sort of element about how everything that's ethical and sustainable is key to attract customers. You've got to have these right sort of core practices, right, to get the younger generations. Is this something that, as customers yourselves, does this influence your sort of buying behaviours at all? Is it something that you guys see?
I do at times, yeah. But I'll tell you what, here's one for you. Patagonia. I've been buying Patagonia clobber for 6 years or so. I didn't even know they were an ethical company. I didn't buy it. I really like outdoor clobber and bottle. But yeah, I buy a lot of stuff for the house and things like that if it's more ethically made and sourced, to be honest. I know that's probably more prevalent in the younger generation, but I've been more conscious of the last 2 years in particular. Probably just trying to get my kids educated a little bit more in regards to more things that will ethically make. That's one of the things that I generally don't like, the fast fashion retail, because I don't like how the product's made.
Got you. One quick thing on that, the sustainability. The point that was made around was Zalando. Are we all familiar with Zalando?
Yes.
Yes, they've made a commitment to have all their suppliers be 100% like sustainable by 2023, and if you're not, you can't be sold through the website.
Entirely sustainable?
Yeah.
By 2023? That seems like quite a tough call. That's a huge ask.
It's a monstrous thing, but you're looking at it's people like Levi's are on there, like massive brands globally. How do they do this?
That touches on what you...
Again, here's the cynical take. Sorry, you probably have to cut some of the cynical takes. Are they actually looking at their supplier base now and the brands that they sell and realising actually 95% of them already take pride in being ethically supplied?
Probably, and it also touches on what we were saying earlier about younger people wanting to have that ethically sourced gear, and then if they're going literally, I don't even have to look at the fine print anymore, I can just go on this site because it's all going to be doing it. But yeah, it depends also on the definition of the sustainable that they're going to take as well.
So it's human rights, fair wages, carbon dioxide emissions.
Do you have to hit 2 or 3 of those, or do you have to hit all 3, or do you have to hit 1?
Carbon dioxide, yeah.
CO2 emissions, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's got like, how are these things getting delivered in? Most of these things are getting delivered in from other countries. So, for example, you know, your major American brands, for example, they've got things that are getting shipped in or flown in. I dare say, like, can anything really be ethical if it's being delivered to you?
I think we're good for that now, guys. Thanks for coming, everyone. We've got a guest on next week, and we'll be filming again. So,
have we got next week?
When's this released? So a week after this will be Dan Spencer's. Is that right?
Is not Paul Norris next week?
Yeah, but we're releasing this next week. So
isn't Dan from that? Some payment gateway, isn't it?
Which one? Oh, PayPal, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one.
I'm surprised it took this long.
Right, thanks everyone. Bye.
Cheers.